Oh, welcome back to this random table where I fix stuff. You may remember this radio from a video I did a while ago. This is that early 30s Philco, I think it's a Philco 81 or 80, something like that. That both of the, two of the coils were open on the chassis, and I rewound the coils. And also it had an issue with the speaker. I couldn't get it to stop rubbing. There was like a vibration in it, so I did source the new speaker. I have dismantled the old one. This is the output transformer and the field coil off of the old one. We will need both of these. You can't get rid of the field coil because that's part of the B plus filtering circuit, so this has to stay. So I have to find a way to how we're going to attach that. But yeah, this has to stay. So I got this wired up. I did test this and it seems to work. I can give you a little demonstration. We'll turn this on. I did replace the light bulb because the old one was flaky. While it's warming up, I took the grill cloth frame and pulled the grill cloth off of it because I don't know if you remember that, but I don't even know if I showed this either. But see how it's kind of like dented in there? So I have to tighten this so that it's nice and taut there. Oops. So I have to tighten this so it's nice and taut there, so it's not going to hit the new speaker. Additionally, I don't know if I showed it or not, but the speaker is held on by 3 screws. You can see 1, 2, and 3. And when I took this apart, the third one at the top wasn't like, it seemed like there was hardly enough space on the bolt to get the nuts on. And it turns out, actually technically I should say the speaker isn't held on by those 3. The front plate is held on by those 3, and the top one also holds the speaker on. So when I took this apart initially, there wasn't enough space on that top bolt, barely, to get the nut to hold the front plate on, and the nut to hold the speaker on top of that. But it turns out that there's actually, see if I can show these or not, the screws here for that are actually 3 different sizes, and someone had put the, I'm sure you can really see, but the middle one there is, it's not working as well, but the middle one there is longer than the other 2, and someone had put that long one down here, but it doesn't need to be. So I think if I put the long one up at the top where I think it's supposed to be, that should solve that problem.
So everyone's breakup position on today, and if I'm able to get back to the commission, I'll just
You can see the speaker sounds fine. And this radio is actually pretty impressive in my opinion, because this is only a 4.2 radio, and the only antenna I have hooked up, which is nothing really, I just have this little, just have that little stick there coming out of the back of the radio. So that's the only antenna that that little 4.2 radio has. So in my opinion, that is pretty impressive. You gotta remember that just like, 2, 3, 4 years before this was made, RCA was making 8 and 9 tube super head-on radios, and this one's only got 4. So definitely impressed with the performance on this one. Not sure how they managed to get that kind of performance out of just 4 tubes in the early 30s, but. That's the volume all the way down too.
I'm going to give the same question, and then I'm going to touch on something else. Shoot, why don't you tell us what you want voters
nice
to know
and clear.
about you, and why you're doing this?
Well, I'm doing, I gave a little bit of...
Well, anyway, so the original speaker was mounted to this. it was mounted around here, and then it's got the hole in the middle for the field coil, and then this was a little spring here that the voice coil wires were clipped into, just like a stabilization thing. And I had 4 rivet type things holding it in. It's not really rivets, they're kind of like studs, but then they've got like a spiral type, not really a thread per se, but like a spiral type thing on there, and I guess I just hammer those in. So I was able to pry all of these out and get that off. The field coil here doesn't seem to have suffered any damage that I can see. Got a little bit of a scratch there, but other than that it seems perfectly fine, and obviously it works just fine. Outward transformer works just fine. I am going to try and leave the humbucking coil in circuit. I'm not sure how much effect it's going to have, because I'm not sure, you know, whether it needs to be in line with the magnet on the speaker in order for it to have its effect. I'm not 100% sure, but because if you see this is the new, you know, permanent magnet in the speaker. This is a regular permanent magnet versus the old style. They didn't have the magnet technology back then to do that, so they made field coils, and then this is the part where the voice coil rides on this little groove here. So the field coil is wrapped around this metal post and generates the magnetic field through here. And then they've also got a number of additional turns in a separate coil, that's the humbucking coil. So that's what this lead and this lead go to. They go into here and have an additional couple turns, and that's in series with the outward transformer and the voice coil. So basically your audio signal comes out of the outward transformer, through the humbucking coil, and then through the voice coil. But what I'm not sure is, like in the original design, this humbucking coil was wrapped around the same magnetic field that was providing the magnetic field for the voice coil to act against. Now that's not the case. This magnetic field is basically doing nothing other than providing smoothing for the power supply. So whether or not the humbucking coil will have its intended effect, because it may work in some way, because any magnetic variation in this magnetic field will also be varied through the humbucking coil. So in that sense it may have an effect, but it's not quite the same as the original design. So I'm not sure whether it's going to be worthwhile or not, but either way, there's no hum that I can hear coming out of the speaker, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. Just wanted to mention that point. But anyway, so this should be good. I just have to find a way to mount all of this stuff. So that brings us back to the faceplate here. So you can see that we've got the hole here for the speaker, and then we've got 1, 2, and then 3 mounting holes for the speaker. So this one is that slot on the top that goes through the front, through this plate, and then through the speaker. And then these 2 are the other mounting holes that line up at the front. So, and then these 2 screws here are glued in, because obviously once the grill cloth is on and this is installed on the radio, you won't be able to get a screwdriver in to hold these. So this one was loose, I glued it back in. Seems like it should be fine, and the other one's still glued in, so that should be fine. What I'm planning to do is, because if you notice the new speaker has 4 mounting holes instead of 3, and it's also a little bit smaller than the old one. So what I'm planning to do is use one of the holes in the speaker to line up with this, so then the speaker will be like somewhere in this area, and then that will give me some extra space down here where hopefully I can mount these 2 items. So my plan is to make a metal sheet that either, you know, encompasses this whole area, or at least is like a sliver around the bottom, so that the metal sheet will be attached to these 2 screws here. Actually, this one has come loose, so I'll have to glue that one back in too. Didn't notice that before. It wasn't turned, but it wiggles, so I'll probably glue that one anyway. Anyway, I'm planning to make a metal sheet that will either cover just this bottom piece, or like wrap around the whole thing with a hole in the middle for the speaker, obviously, and attach that to at least these 2, and possibly this top one if I make it that big, and then mount these 2 items down here in this area, like off to the side, or if there's enough space right in the middle, like directly under the speaker. So the first thing I'm going to do is get my sheet of metal and make a template of this on the sheet of metal so I know where all my holes are, how much space I have, and I'll work out how and where I'm going to mount the field coil and the output transformer and the speaker. Well, I'm pretty confident the speaker is going to go right here. And then I'll work on getting that made, and once that's all done, then I'll probably reattach the grill cloth on here, and then I think we should be pretty much ready to put it back together. I don't think there's any other work that I need to do on the radio. Everything seems fine there. It's all been recapped in the last video and fixed, and as you can see, it pulls in the stations just fine. It sounds real clear. So the radio, pretty sure is going to be good. So yeah, I'm going to start by making my metal sheet and see where we go from there. Alright, that's what I come up with so far. You can see I've got this plate made, which matches the bottom shape of this thing. So ideally this will just slide right on like that. And then the hole on the top of the speaker lines up with this hole. So that same bolt that held on the top of the speaker in the original design will also hold on the top of the speaker in this design. You can see that there is a bit of a gap here, like on some of the sides. So, of course, this is going to be bolted down like that. But so I might add some like foam or something there just to fill in those spaces. But for now, I think it should work. And then on the back side here, I've mounted the field coil here and the output transformer. I did replace the wires going from this terminal board under the shield here to the output transformer because the old ones were super stiff, and when I tried bending them, they just ended up cracking. So I think I might need a little bit longer ones too. I don't think the original ones would have reached this far to allow me to do this. So I replaced those wires. I will tape these up before we're all done here, and then I wired in the output transformer and the humbucking coil and the speaker. So all that's wired and soldered in. However, I will be replacing these wires that go from the radio up to the speaker assembly, because over there, as they come out of the radio, they look fine. But as you can see on this terminal board here, they're pretty cracked and dilapidated. So I'm just going to replace all those. But for now, I wanted to do a test. So got the radio plugged in. Everything should be wired up. We'll just move this out of the way before it gets posted by rectifier tube. We'll turn this on and see what we got. Oh, here's something coming out of the speaker, so that's a good sign. Seems like it works.
So it was at that point that I'm looking around and coming home every day to an empty house. And those who...
This radio does have some type of regeneration in it, which I think is why sometimes it sounds a little like it's oscillating, because I think it just might be, and then now it sounds clear.
The silence in my bedroom was overwhelming.
But now it almost sounds like it might be, either on the verge of oscillating or oscillating a little bit, so you have to get it pretty much right on.
A loss really becomes a part of you. It helps.
Usually clears right up. I think that's what that is anyway, because there definitely is a regeneration circuit in there, because it only has 4 tubes, so you have to make the most of what you've got.
Trying to help people with it. You want to breathe.
Stupid mirror is
well.
at me.
You want.
So it is a little bit hard to tune because it doesn't have any reduction, so you have to get, and the knob isn't super big, so you have to get it right on.
For as little as $35,900,
Anyway, definitely seems to work fine. Don't hear any excessive hum coming out of the speakers, so I'd say the hum coil is either irrelevant or effective. You know, either I've got it wired up correctly and it's doing its job, or it's not really doing much of anything, so it doesn't matter which way you wire it up. But either way, satisfied with that. So I'll go ahead and replace these wires. I still have to mount the grill cloth to this, and I think that's just about it. And see, I do have these heads with the screws here, so I did hollow out little holes in the back of this plate for those heads to go in. So, and then this one is actually right around up in here, so it doesn't need one. But just so that this will sit flat as possible against that plate. This is not the ideal material to use. This sheet is a little thin for this, so just working with it, it's distorted just a little bit. So it may not be completely flat all the way across, but this is what I have to work with, and I don't really have the tools or equipment to work with, a heavy gauge that would probably be better for this application. So this is what we got. Also, I wanted to show is how I mounted the field coil. So you can see how the field coil has that stub coming out the middle. So I obviously couldn't mount this plate flat against the back here, which would be ideal. So what I ended up doing was, because I have the really long screws, so I'm not sure if you can see it on there, but I put a bolt at the base of the screw, bolting the screw to the plate, and then, this is probably going to be a little bit hard to show. Oh, no, you can see it. And then I have another bolt on the bottom, and then another bolt on the top to hold this in place so it's lifted off. So you can see there's a space in between the stub sticking out of the field coil and the plate there. That's how I mounted that. Again, not really ideal, especially because this plate is so thin, but it should work fine. I mean, we're not an earthquake zone, so. Let me finish up placing those wires and mounting the grill cloth, and I think we should be pretty much good then. Alright, so I've got the Philco wire replaced. Everything still works perfectly fine. Gotta avoid a copyright strike there. I'm so amazed by how this radio is able to pull in that station, like any stations really, with just 4 tubes and that little tiny. Like I said, all I've got in this radio is this little tiny antenna here. That's it. So. And the oscillator coil is shielded on this, so it's not picking anything up through that. So it's only picking up through that little tiny piece of wire, and in my opinion, it's a great performer for just having a little antenna. Anyway, so I got the Philco wire replaced. Everything still works. I've got my grill cloth and front plate mounted back in the cabinet here. As you can see, it's not like 100% perfect, but it's definitely a lot better than before, where it was just like a giant dish pushed all the way in. So it's much tighter now, so that should be fine. So I think the only thing left to do here is to stick this thing back in the cabinet and bolt it down. And I think that'll be it for this then. So all back together now. Unfortunately, my camera has decided not to work properly, so I hope this is recording. I can't really see exactly what it is recording, unfortunately. So that's unfortunate. Anyway, as you can see, it does work.
Careful not to extrapolate our experiences to everybody else, whether they're positive or negative. I know that for a fact there are.
Show you the back side. Yeah, like I said, hopefully I'm actually showing. You can see that I had to.
There are no racist police officers, is a lie. But the question is
that's all the antenna this has. It's pretty impressive, I think. Anyway, I did have to mount the field coil at a slight angle there because when I first put this back in, it was hitting the top of the power transformer, so I had to take everything all back out, drill a new hole, reattach the field coil, and put everything all back in. I didn't film that process because, to be honest, I was a little annoyed at that point that I thought I got this all set, and as soon as I wanted to put it back in the cabinet, it didn't fit properly. So. Anyway, I think I've got, obviously everything fits now, so should be fine. It's working fine. I did lose one bolt, I think, or one nut rather. It's either one stud there where the speaker used to attach doesn't have a bolt on it, or a nut rather, but I can just find that and put that on it at some later point. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I do have the lock washer for it, just lost the nut somehow, but this is held on in 4 other places. So the 2 bolts at the bottom where the front panel mounts are now also holding on the steel plate, and then the bolt at the top is holding the speaker on, and then the bolt on the left side that used to hold the speaker on is also holding that plate on. And then once I get the nut on that, that'll be the 5th point holding that plate on. So it's definitely mounted solid. Just got to find that nut, or get a new one or something. Anyway, so if you enjoyed this video, I know it's probably a little bit shorter one because most of the time was spent making that plate. But anyway.